We continue our countdown looking at the Braves' top 10 prospects. Today, we'll look at prospects 6 through 10, which includes some young bats with a ton of upside. We'll cover all that on today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Check out the podcast there as well at LockedOn_Braves. If you're new and watching this on YouTube, please do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and leave me a comment down below. You've done an amazing job of that, especially last week. I really do appreciate all the support you give me here at Locked On Braves. If you're listening on the audio version, you can help out by leaving me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you so much to all of you out there who make Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. On today's podcast, we're going to continue our countdown looking at the top prospects in the Braves system. Last week, we looked at honorable mentions. This week, we're going to look at prospects 6 through 10, which I think is a very exciting part of this ranking. A lot of unknowns in it, but if some of these guys hit, they're obviously going to be at the top of the Braves prospect rankings and maybe on some top 100 lists. We got some top 100 list recently. We'll look at some of those and get into a lot on today's episode of Locked On Braves. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Well, as I mentioned there, last week, I looked at some honorable mentions for the Atlanta Braves prospects and maybe some surprises on there. But I think this is becoming a very good list, especially about 15 or 16 out. I really think there are some interesting prospects for the Braves that could be impact. It depends on how you define impact, but could be big league contributors. The level of impact, I think, certainly varies, but just real briefly to go over those who just missed the top 10 cut that we talked about last week. Giancarlo Lara, I said last week I was really, trying to decide between putting him at 10 or the person I'm about to unveil at number 10. Teaser alert. Nacho Alvarez just missed my cut this year. Drew Hackenberg, Lucas Braun, Didier Fuentes, Blake Burkhalter, and Herrick Hernandez. Those are guys who are outside my top 10 that are still really exciting names and players to watch. And if you've never followed one of my lists before, when I rank prospects, I do it strictly based on upside. If this player hits their 90th percentile outcome, what could that look like? And that's how I do my rankings here at Locked On Braves. So you might see things a little bit different than what maybe some of the consensus has. But for the most part, these are going to be names you're going to see in just about everybody's top 10, top 15. But those are some of the honorable mentions: Giancarlo Lara, Nacho Alvarez, Drew Hackenberg, Lucas Braun, Didier Fuentes, Blake Burkhalter, and Herrick Hernandez. So without further ado, let's get into the top 10 now, starting at number 10. And again, this was the guy I was going back and forth with on Giancarlo Lara, but at 10, I put Garrett Ballman. And reason being is just because I think both of these guys have tremendous upside. I think if I were being honest with myself, I think Lara maybe has a little bit more upside, but I think there's a lot more reliever risk with Lara. And that's why I ultimately went with Ballman, because I think he has the better shot of reaching that ceiling and reaching that potential. Now, he's a 4th round pick in 2023 out of Haggerty High School in Florida, 6'8", 245-pound right-handed pitcher. He'll be 20 for almost all of 2025, so still a very young pitcher. And in 2024, had a great season, 20 games, 19 of those starts, a 3.18 ERA, a 1.13 whip, worked 99 innings, 89 strikeouts, a 2.09 walk per nine, a 0.27 home run per nine. Those are both really, you're not walking anybody. You're not giving up any home runs. It's a ground ball rate near 50%. It's a really good profile. He got one start at Rome at high A at the end of the year, went 7 innings, 4 hits, no walks, did hit a batter, 5 strikeouts. He went 5 or more innings and 11 starts. And you may say, okay, big whoop on that. That's, just barely over half of the games you started. But he played most of last year at 19 as a guy taken out of high school. You knew they were going to limit him, and he still went 5-6. As I just mentioned, at high A, he went his last start of the year, he went 7 innings. So it's very encouraging to see him be able to go deep into games. Now, the stuff for Garrett Ballman here, fastball sits 92, 94, but he can get it up to 97. And he was able to hold that velocity deep into starts, which is something very key that I look at. So good to see that. Like I said, the fact that he's able to work deep into starts is one thing, but be able to hold that velocity deep into starts is another thing. And he was able to do both of those. He gets plenty of swing and miss on that fastball when he can locate it up in the zone. He leaves it down a little bit. It flattens out some, and it can be a bit hittable. But you go back and watch many of his highlights from last year, and you'll see a lot of those strikeouts are on fastballs at the top of the zone. Now, he also throws a slider and a changeup. There doesn't seem to be much consistency with the slider, but it has really good downward movement on it, breaking away, down and away from right-handed hitters. And the changeup has some good fade on it, breaking down and away to left-handed hitters. So he's got the fastball, he's got the slider to go after righties, he's got the changeup that he can go after lefties with. I think the future for him is can he get more consistent with those secondaries, and can he throw them to both righties and lefties? Can he throw a slider, back foot slider to a lefty when he needs to? Can he drop a changeup down and in on a righty when he needs to mix that up? If those are going to be his three main pitches, and there's not going to be a fourth one in there like a curveball or something like that, that's going to be, the next step, I think, for him. And also hopefully a tick up in velocity, as we hope with all these young players, but especially a guy that big. I think that there's something to dream on, that the fastball could tick up a little bit. And that's why maybe I'm just a little bit higher on him, because he already has that command. With somebody that's 6'8", the one thing you really worry about is, can he repeat that delivery? And it's a very easy delivery. This is not a max effort type of thing for him. And he's able to throw strikes. He's able to pound the zone already. Again, at a young age, he has already established that he can do that. And now it's just refining those secondaries, finding some extra velocity on that fastball, reaching back and going to 97, 98 if he needs to. I mean, if he can do that, I think the ceiling becomes more of a number 2 and number 3 type starter. As it is right now, he's probably more of a number 4, can pitch to a number 3 at times. But because of the command and the control that he has, it's a very safe floor for what you have with Garrett Bauman. So again, he's number 10 on my list. I think there's a lot of still upside and untapped potential with him, still being just 20 years old with that big frame, already being advanced in terms of control and strike throwing. Now it's just being able to add a little bit more strength to that fastball. It looks like he could add some more to that frame, and being able to control those secondaries and throw them more consistently. So I'm very high on him. I can't wait to see, what he looks like and what he grows into. At number 9 on my list is Luis Guanipa. 2024, 52 games. He slashed 219, 286, 291. That's not good. In fact, that's pretty bad. 2 home runs, 18 walks to 45 strikeouts, 10 stolen bases. At the rookie level in 20 games, he hit 282, 346, 451 with 2 doubles, 3 triples, 2 home runs, 7 walks, 10 strikeouts, 4 stolen bases, and no caught stealing. So he dominated the league that he probably should have been at all last year. But because he came out and played so well in those first 20 games, they move him up to Augusta. And at Augusta in 32 games, he slashed just 184, 250, 200 with 2 doubles, 11 walks to 35 strikeouts, 6 stolen bases, and 4 caught stealing. So he clearly struggled with that jump from rookie ball up to full season single A ball at Augusta. I'm putting him at 9 simply because if it clicks, this is a guy with easy 2020 potential. An outfielder, I think that's a low side on the home runs. I mean, there's clear power potential in here for a guy to hit 30 plus home runs. I truly believe that in the swing. However, I do have major concerns about his swing. His front half flies open. His hips fly open. He's really susceptible to pitches down and away. Any right-handed pitcher with a good slider is going to be able to get him flailing at pitches. It is a very pull-happy approach, but there is a lot of power in here, and you make a mistake inside, he will make you pay. I would imagine that's where he got exposed going to full season ball. We'll see how he adjusts next year. But as I talked about when I did my spotlight on him, he's just one of those guys that you look at, you see him in the box, and you think immediately, this guy is a stud. And that's part of why I put him in here at number 9, even though I do have major concerns about his swing and his setup. But if he can figure that out, like I said, I think this is a guy who can hit 30 home runs, steal 20 bases for you, and can be a really impact corner outfield type of bat. So again, my rankings are strictly based on upside. And I think 90th percentile outcome for Luis Guanipa is 30-20, 30-25 type of player. Now, it may only be a 250, 260 average at best, but I think he has that type of potential for you. So I put him in here at number 9. All right, next we have 8, 7, and 6. 2 more guys who are unproven, but if they hit their max potential, they're going to be all-star level type of talents. We'll get into those names here next. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, comedy, or theater. Now, Gametime has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Gametime Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I was looking for tickets to an upcoming basketball game in my area, and I went straight on the Gametime app. It's the only app that I go to now whenever I'm looking to go to an event. And with Gametime Picks, I found amazing deals and could even see the view from my seat before buying. The super deal was particularly impressive, offering great seats at unbeatable prices. Plus, the app's all-in pricing that you can filter right there shows you the total cost up front. I tell you about this all the time when I talk about Gametime because I love these 2 features. The upfront pricing, you know exactly what you're getting. Filter it for all-in pricing, and you get the view from your seats. You know exactly what it's going to look like. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. Thanks as always for making Locked On Braves your first listen of the day. Go check out Locked On MLB for your second listen. Solely getting you caught up with everything happening around Major League Baseball. Coming up later this week, probably going to do another podcast on Tuesday night. Might have 4 podcasts for you this week, depending on what happens. But I want to get into the Dylan Cease and now Michael King rumors that the Padres could be shopping one of those pitchers and how involved the Braves should be. We'll talk about that on Tuesday's episode of Locked On Braves. So make sure you are subscribed and get notified whenever we go live with that episode. All right, let's continue now with our countdown. At number 8 is Jose Perdomo. Now, Jose Perdomo, and I'll go ahead and give it away. Number 7 is going to be Diego Torrens. These are basically here for upside potential. Like I said, I do my ranking strictly based on upside potential. What could they ultimately be if they hit their ceiling? And I think Perdomo and Torrens have to be on this list because of that. Now, I don't usually put guys in my top 10 that I haven't been able to see yet and put my eyes on, but I'm just too excited about these players. The fact that the Braves were willing to start Perdomo as a very young kid last year at 17, start him out in the complex league, tells me a little something about him. Now, it didn't ultimately happen because he got injured to start the year, only played in a handful of games, but that gives me some sort of insight to how the Braves view him and perhaps how aggressive they might be with him. Unfortunately, it was pretty much a lost year, but again, it was his age 17-year-old season, so not too worried about that, but would have loved to see him be able to get going, get off to a good start, and see how aggressive the Braves do push him. But he had a hamstring injury, and he only got to play, like I said, in a handful of games. He ended up playing those in the DSL, but it's a guy with a lot of upside that I just can't wait to see more. He'll likely start 2025 in the Florida Complex League. I would imagine that's going to be the case if they were willing to start him there last year. I would think they're going to do the same this year, assuming he comes into the season healthy. If he has a good showing there, perhaps we get a promotion to Augusta. It doesn't have to happen. If it doesn't happen, it's not a big deal. As I just talked about with Luis Guanipa, he was crushing it at rookie ball first 20 games of the season. They moved him up to Augusta, and he struggled there. So it's not always, that simple. But I would imagine for a guy like Perdomo, who again did have somewhat of a lost season last year, if you were to get off to a hot start in the complex, then maybe they move him up to Augusta, but no reason to rush the 18-year-old now. The 90th percentile outcome for him, in my opinion, is, a 280 hitter, 20-plus home run, top of the order type of bat. I think that's what you're looking at for Perdomo, who it sounds like to me, and again, I haven't been able to get my eyes on him, a guy that can stay at shortstop too. Which, obviously moves him up the rankings in my mind. Now, I know a lot of people are wondering, when is that next shortstop coming? People are asking me all the time, where is the next shortstop in the Braves system? it could be Perdomo, but you're talking 3-4 years down the road before this kid is ready. But I don't know that there's anybody that I'm more excited about to see in 2025 at the minor league level than Jose Perdomo. Like I said, especially if he does get off to a hot start and they move him up to Augusta, I can't wait to see what he can do. As I already mentioned, Diego Torrens, number 7 on my list. I think what makes me a little bit more excited about Torrens is that he's already physically developed. I mean, he's 6'4", 200 pounds. A lot of times with these international prospects, it's really hard to evaluate what they're going to do because we haven't seen them reach their full potential physically. And maybe we haven't yet with Diego Torrens, but I mean, 6'4", 200, that's already, pretty developed as a young kid. So I think you can already kind of dream on the potential because we've seen, probably what his ultimate size is going to be and how he can play at that. And he's said to have great bat speed from both sides of the plate. Is a switch hitter, and the ball explodes off his bat. Things that you love to hear. Now, you could go read the top 50 international prospects out there on MLB Pipeline, and you're going to hear the same verbiage for pretty much all of these guys. They are all young kids that you can dream on, and they looked really good, playing against young competition, in their respective countries. But there certainly is some excitement about Diego Torrens and what he could be. Some says he had the best power speed combo in the current J15 class that just signed. He's likely going to play a corner outfield spot. Again, 90th percentile. You're looking at 275, 280 hitter, 30 home runs, 20 stolen bases, similar to the outcome for Luis Guanipa. For now, without really having seen him and already having seen Guanipa, I think Torrens probably a little bit more likely to hit that. But again, I haven't seen him, so I can't give a true evaluation of that just based on what we've heard and what little video we have seen. And because of where he already is physically, I think he has a more likely chance to hit that 90th percentile. And, if that's the type of player he is, that's an all-star level type of player. So I'm really excited about those guys, in particular, Perdomo and Torrens. I mean, I'm excited about Guanipa, but like I said, I am a little worried with that swing profile that he has. But if he can make some changes there, keep that front shoulder tucked in and stay on those pitches, then perhaps there is some more upside with him, or a chance to hit that upside. There's obviously plenty of upside with him, but better chance to hit that upside. Now, coming in at number 6 for me, and this one may be a little bit controversial. This is probably a name you're going to see in most people's top 5. I have him just outside of that, and that is Owen Murphy. Again, my rankings are strictly based on pure upside. What is your 90th percentile outcome? And I like Owen Murphy, I do, but some of the guys I have ahead of him, I think, have higher ceilings. Now, I think Murphy has, a higher floor than a lot of the guys ahead of him, but I do think the ceiling is a little bit capped for Owen Murphy. And hopefully I'm wrong. In 2024, played all at high A, 41 innings, only 18 hits, 12 walks, 9 earned, and 60 strikeouts, a 1.54 ERA and a 0.73 whip. He was having a breakout season. Had he finished that season, much like the year before, if J.R. Ritchie had finished his season that he was having, both of those guys are probably on top 100 list right now because they were both having incredible seasons. But unfortunately, Owen Murphy, just like J.R. Ritchie the year before, had to miss the rest of the year for Tommy John surgery and is going to miss most of the 2025 season as well. But the profile for Murphy, it's a low 90s fastball, but it has a lot of life to it. It was incredible going back and watching his starts and how many swings and misses he got on a low 90s fastball. But it has a very good induced vertical break, and it has a lot of life at the top of the zone. I mean, do yourself a favor if you can. Go back and watch some of those starts from Owen Murphy at the beginning of the year. I don't know that I've seen a player that doesn't throw upper 90s get so many whiffs on a fastball. He also throws a big, slow curveball that plays off that fastball really well. Most hitters, not able to get to that when they're looking for that fastball with some ride at the top of the zone. Good fastball command as well. A decent slider. For me, the ceiling is a number 3 starter with a safe floor as a 4th or 5th starter. So again, not a wide range of outcomes there. I think he certainly could be a mid-rotation guy, but I think the fallback for him is that he's a really solid 4th or 5th kind of control type of pitcher, but better than your Bryce Elders of the world. And I think that is the floor for Owen Murphy. But again, hopefully I'm wrong on that. Hopefully there is some more upside in there and he could be a number 2 or so, becomes a really solid number 3 starter. And there's a better chance of him reaching that. It's just hard for me to see that, even again, with seeing the wonder of that fastball and the whiffs that it gets at the lower levels. I mean, if that were to continue and he comes back and he's pitching at Double-A and he's still getting all the whiffs with that low 90s fastball, then I'll start to buy into the fact that he really could be a number 3 type of pitcher. It's just hard for me to believe that, because it's just unusual to see that type of profile be able to succeed to that degree. But certainly the results speak for themselves. Again, the start that he was off to in 2024 was incredible. He would be on many, if not all, top 100 prospect lists had he finished that season out. And again, I always compare him and J.R. Ritchie because they were taken in the same draft. I've always done a little bit more higher on J.R. Ritchie because we've seen the higher velocity from Ritchie in the past, and he was having the same type of breakout before he got injured. But now it's going to be, how much are we going to get from Owen Murphy this year? What's he going to look like coming back? It's really going to be 2026 probably before we know what we're going to get with Owen Murphy. Just like this is going to be the year coming up that we're really going to know what we have in J.R. Ritchie. So I like Owen Murphy. Again, nothing against him. I just don't have him in my top 5, but you're probably going to see him in the top 5 of most rankings for the Braves because of that safe floor. I mean, he is a very safe bet to be a 4th or 5th starter at some point in the near future, as soon as he can get back and get going again. I think the Braves could move him pretty quickly. Again, depending on how much work he gets in this year and then what he looks like coming back in 2026. So excited about Owen Murphy, excited about all these guys. Again, run that back real quickly. At number 10, Garrett Bauman. At number 9, Luis Guanipa. At number 8, Jose Perdomo. At number 7, Diego Torrens. And at number 6, Owen Murphy. Next week, we'll get into the top 5. You can probably already guess some of the names that are going to be in there. We'll see what order they are in next week. Let me know in the comment section below. Do you like where I have these guys ranked? Do you agree? Do you think there's somebody outside of the top 10 that you think should have been in this range? Let me know down in the comment section below. All right, next we'll get into some news from around Major League Baseball. The Braves interested in a right-handed bullpen arm in Ryne Stanek. We'll talk about that. And also, Uncle Jesse is not coming back, at least for now. We'll discuss all that here next. We'll get into some news around Major League Baseball. I mentioned it earlier. MLB Pipeline and The Athletic each just announced their top 100 prospect list. Drake Baldwin featured heavily in both of those. And on MLB Pipeline's list, they also added Cam Caminiti, which I have no problem with that. It's the new kind of shiny toy, but as you're probably going to find out next week, I don't have him at the top of my list. But certainly glad to see those guys in there. It's crazy to me. We've seen Nacho Alvarez in some top 100 lists. We've seen AJ Smith-Shawver, Hurston Waldrop. Like I said, I think if J.R. Ritchie and Owen Murphy both had stayed healthy in their breakout years, they could be top 100 prospects. So I think the Braves have 5 or 6 players at the top that are, right around that top 100 area, or at least deserve top 100 consideration. So while they may only have 2 in there or 1, according to some lists, I think they have 5 or 6 guys that are right there in that top 100 consideration. Again, I'll give you my top 5 next week. The Braves announced their promo schedule for the upcoming season. So if you were into that and trying to chase some bobbleheads, make sure you go check that out. Mark Bowman of MLB.com reported that the Braves have shown interest in right-handed reliever Ryne Stanek. He's coming off a bit of a rough season with a 4.88 ERA, but his xERA was 3.44, so well under a run lower than his actual ERA. That because of his 290 batting average on balls in play. That was the second highest of his career. His BABIP normally sits around 260, 265, so he was a bit unlucky last year. Didn't necessarily walk anymore, didn't really give up many more home runs either. It was just he got BABIP'd to death, and sometimes that happens. Now, it is a 10.4% walk rate, which is not great, but you can get by when you have a 27.8% strikeout rate like Stanek does. And his expected batting average last year was 205. So like I mentioned, he gave up some more hits. He had bad luck on batting average on balls in play, but his expected batting average was just 205 against. So all the underlying data looked really good for Stanek last year, a guy that averages 97.7 miles per hour on his four-seam fastball and has a splitter that gets whiffs over 40% of the time. So again, those are all very good markers for Ryne Stanek. This is the making of a really good setup guy and would be a good replacement for Joe Jimenez. Now, he does turn 34 in July, but again, all the underlying metrics there look good for Ryne Stanek. So this is the guy that the Braves can get. I think it would be a huge get for them. And like I said, fill a big need in the bullpen. Don't know exactly what the cost would be, but again, at 34 years old, I can't imagine he's getting more than a 1-year deal for $7 to $10 million. I mean, if you can get him around that rate, kind of like what you're already paying Jimenez and Pierce Johnson, if you can get him for $8 or $9 million on 1 year, maybe with a club option and a $2 million buyout, something like that, I think that could be a good move for the Atlanta Braves. Now, they won't be bringing Jesse Chavez back as he signs a deal with the Rangers, a minor league contract with an invite to spring training. Look, he's with the Rangers for now. You know where his heart is. You know where his home is. So we'll see if he returns at some point in 2025. But he will not be getting that minor league deal with the Braves. I'm a bit surprised. I mean, the Braves have let a lot of their veterans go this offseason, walk away to other places. I mean, I can't imagine there wasn't at least a discussion had with Jesse Chavez of, hey, do you want to just come back on a minor league deal? Like, you can make as many minor league deals as you want, but maybe he felt like he had a better chance of catching on in the Rangers bullpen. I don't know. We will never know, but I'd be a little surprised if the Braves didn't say, hey, you want to give it another go here on a minor league deal if you want to keep pitching. But we've seen this offseason, Travis d'Arnaud, Charlie Morton, now Jesse Chavez. You've seen a lot of their veteran kind of extra coaches, if you will, that they've let go. But certainly wish the best for Uncle Jesse. And like I said, maybe we haven't seen the last of him in a Braves uniform. He'll find his way back at some point. The Cubs traded for Ryan Pressly from the Houston Astros. I have not seen the final details on that trade yet, or if it's become official. Sometimes those can take a little, but I did hear where the Astros are eating a good bit or some of that money rather that he is owed this year. But Ryan Pressly goes to the Cubs. I know some people are hoping that the Braves would be in on that, but that is not the case as he goes to the Cubs. He had to waive his no trade for that, and Houston's going to be sending money to help cover the $14 million. The Cubs are sending right-handed pitcher Juan Bello back to Houston in the deal, but I think that was mostly for the Astros trying to free up some money there. So Ryan Pressly to the Cubs. Padres are discussing trading Michael King, and like Cease, he's a free agent after 2026. For me, which one costs less in terms of prospect capital? Which one are you more likely to extend? I love both of those guys. You can get either one of them. Please go out and do it. And that's what we're going to talk about on tomorrow's podcast. So make sure you come back for that. And for all of you out there who continually ask me about Trevor Bauer and will the Braves sign him, Doc Cards, I am looking at you. Trevor Bauer signed with an NPB team. So he's already signed. He's not signing a major league deal. You know, whether you agree with that or not, he is signed with another NPB team. All right, that will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Trey Peter says, what up, Jake? Can you speak to the current state of the bullpen? Look, the bullpen, I think, could be okay, but I think that's a tough way to go into the season thinking it could be okay. You look at it, Iglesias, Pierce Johnson, Aaron Bummer, Dylan Lee, Daysbel Hernandez, Grant Holmes or Ian Anderson, whichever one doesn't win a job there. I think Angel Perdomo, another lefty you can put in there. I think the Braves have some good arms in the bullpen. Like, I think there's the makings here of this being a solid bullpen. I would not put it in the top probably 10, but maybe the top 15, which makes me a little nervous. So I would certainly love for them to go out and get another. If for instance, even just going and getting a Ryne Stanek, then I'd be like, okay, this is a top 10 bullpen. You can get things done with this, and you can make some changes during the season if you needed to, or see what arms come up from the minor league level, like a Hayden Harris, a Domingo Gonzalez, who's on the 40-man roster now, and see what those young arms can do. There's still questions about Daysbel. I think he certainly has the stuff to be a big, time reliever, but there are questions certainly about the bullpen that need to be addressed. And while I think the bullpen could be okay, I certainly would love it if they went out and got a Ryne Stanek, a David Robertson, a Kyle Finnegan. It would make me feel much better about that group going into the season. Look, bullpens can be fixed during the season more easily than they can anything else. So that doesn't worry me too much if they don't have it ready by opening day. But certainly I'd feel a lot more comfortable if they get one more really good arm as a setup man before the season begins. Homer the Braves, Jackson 09, Jeffrey Humphreys, Michael Salo in here. Austin Pruitt says an Elder trade is coming. We'll see what happens there. Jackson 09, thank you all for joining me here. Chris Hester, what are the odds that Elder is a difference maker this year? I think it's more likely he's traded than he's a difference maker, if I'm being completely honest there. Chuck McMillan, Benjamin Lee, thank you all for joining here today. Benjamin Lee has Baldwin, Caminiti, AJ Smith-Shawver, Waldrop, Torrens, and Ritchie as his top 6. Then Murphy, Reyes, Perdomo, and Alvarez. So thanks for sending in your list there. Send in your list as well in the comment section below. Thank you all for joining me on this episode of Locked On Braves. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Go check out Locked On MLB for your second listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you're new. Hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. And we will talk to you next time.